Welcome, everyone. My name is Samantha Becotte. I'm the president of the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation, and thank you for joining us here today. I'm joining you from Treaty 6 territory in the traditional lands of the Métis. A decade of underfunding means that year after year, there are more students in our classrooms with more needs, and yet fewer supports to meet those needs. Budget after budget, we hear boards talking about the difficult decisions that they have to make in regards to what services are going to be cut, meaning that students are left with their needs being unmet. Government and school boards have been taking advantage of teachers' goodwill and their dedication to the profession and to supporting their students. But teachers can no longer continue to meet the needs of all of their students. Government and school boards have put them all in an impossible situation. Teachers have worked to fill the gaps, and we cannot go down this road any further. The Minister of Education and the Premier of Saskatchewan have both acknowledged the challenges that come with increasing classroom complexity. Jamie Smith-Windsor has made several comments about the needs of predictable and sustainable funding in public education. Yet, they don't want to make the commitments where they can be held accountable to ensuring that there is predictable and sustainable funding, and where that funding gets directed to classrooms to ensure that students get the support that they need. Government and SSBA can put an end to these disruptions, including the disruptions that have been caused to by a decade of underfunding and students not getting help in their classrooms. The MOU that was proposed by government should be provided to their government trustee bargaining team so that it can be used as a starting point for negotiations to continue. Any commitments must be made in the provincial agreement with teachers, where accountability can be placed on government and school boards. Today, we are announcing the beginning of a 5-day countdown to a further job action. If government does not return to the bargaining table with a mandate to discuss all issues of importance to teachers, students, their families before the end of this 5 days, then teachers across the province will be withdrawing all extracurricular services for Tuesday, March 5th and Wednesday, March 6th. While only 48 hours notice is required by law, teachers are giving additional notice to help provide government with the time that they may need to give their government trustee bargaining team a renewed mandate. They continue to ignore the implications of these job actions. They continue to ignore their responsibility in this process. Government has made offers outside of the bargaining process, and we are simply asking for them to commit to those things where they can be held accountable within our provincial collective agreement. If Minister Cockrell, Premier Moe, and SSBA President Jamie Smith-Windsor are truly committed to improving the conditions in classrooms across the province, then they should have no problem in putting those commitments into the provincial agreement with teachers. Government isn't just ignoring teachers. They are ignoring student needs, and they're ignoring the voices of parents and citizens that they are elected to represent. Since the beginning of January, we have had several supporters of our Tell Them Tuesday campaign, and we have seen almost 110,000 emails now sent through that platform, including today's day of action, which continues to grow that number significantly. Teachers don't want to be taking these actions, but if government continues to ignore the big issues, we will have no other choice but to further escalate our actions. I encourage all parents, families, students, business owners, and community members in Saskatchewan to continue their support of teachers by contacting their elected official and their local school board trustees. We can find solutions that improve the experiences of students and teachers in the classroom. We just need our government and our elected officials to have the political will to make long-term commitments where they can be held accountable. So thank you for joining us here. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Derek?
Hi there. Thanks for taking my question here. I've got a couple questions. In regards to the job action, do you believe it's been getting the response that you're hoping for? Like, are parents and supporters more and more kind of buying into your calls to have class complexity and class size be recognized?
Throughout the entire process, we have had a significant amount of support from students, parents, members of communities, in that they recognize what teachers are fighting for. And that is, we are really fighting for our kids and ensuring that they are getting the support that they need in our classrooms. And throughout all of it, they have said that they support us in whatever actions we need to take to get to a suitable resolution. We don't want to be taking these actions. We recognize the frustration that comes with these actions, but that frustration is directed at government in their intransigence and their stubbornness in moving from that position that it can't be in the collective agreement. We have clearly shown that these are items that have been negotiated across Canada, and Saskatchewan deserves the best as well. And that means ensuring our kids have the supports that they need in their classrooms and accountability on those decisions and the funding in teachers' collective bargaining agreements.
Okay, thank you for that answer. The second question that I had regards the school boards. You mentioned some frustration with them not speaking out regarding bargaining issues. Our newsroom has had trouble having them speak on some of the issues you've talked about, like class size and even in-class violence, and they haven't been able to give their input. How concerning is that school boards and these elected trustees are staying silent on so many issues?
It is absolutely concerning. They are elected to represent their communities and represent the needs of their communities and make decisions that are in the best interest of our students. And that is exactly what teachers are fighting for through this collective bargaining process. And so it is concerning that they're not sharing their voice or adding their voice into the conversation because they are elected to represent their communities, and their communities are definitely sharing their voices in this conversation. But I understand the position that they are in and that they have a provincial organization that is representing them in this process. And so I would encourage those local trustees, if they're not speaking out publicly and making public individual statements, they should be definitely directing their concerns to that provincial organization with SSBA to ensure that SSBA is representing all of the local boards that are members of that organization accurately. So we know that local boards want what's best for kids. We know the challenges that they face through the decade of underfunding that we have experienced. And yet their provincial organization through SSBA and the president, Jamie Smith-Windsor, the latest comments that these can't be in the collective agreement seems to misalign with the position of many local boards and their need for increased funding.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Moira?
Thanks for this. I'm wondering why no full strike yet. I know you're going to say all options are on the table, but this has been a really disruptive week. We've heard from parents and teachers and community members, and I think people are wondering if the strategy of rotating strikes and extracurricular strikes is going to work.
Well, we are hopeful that our strategy works and it encourages government to get back to the table and be able to negotiate on those priority items of teachers. We don't want to have that significant disruption to student learning. That is not in the best interest of anyone. I mean, like I've said, we do not want to be taking any of the actions that we have been taking, but we need a government that takes this process seriously and engages in negotiations with teachers in good faith. And we haven't had that for the last 9 months of this collective agreement process. Instead, we've had a government that before even presenting their proposals at the table, were planning a billboard campaign to vilify teachers and paint them as greedy. We have a government and a bargaining team that's sitting across from us that is simply playing games and wasting time. We need solutions now. We need to ensure that our kids are getting the supports in their classrooms now. We do not want to see this process delayed. And so we're hoping that the actions that we have taken, while they do minimize the disruption to student learning in classrooms, that they urge the government back to the table with a renewed mandate.
Thanks. And on the note of classroom supports, we spoke to a teacher who left teaching in 2022 over concerns that she was being asked do a lot of personal care and disability support that she felt, were outside of her scope as a teacher at John Dolan in Saskatoon, so specialized for students with disabilities. What is the STF's stance on what responsibilities like that fall within a teacher's job mandate and what should not?
And so the responsibilities of teachers are outlined within the Education Act. They're in legislation here in Saskatchewan, and those items around personal care do not fall within teachers' responsibility. But it is because of the lack of supports, and obviously teachers come into the profession because they care and they want to be able to provide students with experiences and opportunities to be successful in their learning. And so whether it is personal care or mental health counseling, while teachers aren't necessarily always trained for these, when there is no other option, teachers will try and provide some sort of support to students. But like we said, kids need better supports in our schools across the province, not just in certain situations. There are too many students who are going without those professional supports, whether it's occupational therapists or speech language pathologists. Also, it's just time with their teacher. There are lots of students who don't require additional support, but they just require a connection with their teacher. And when you have 40 or more students in a classroom, that becomes impossible to do. You basically end up just becoming a lecture style classroom, and that's not what is best for high school classes, let alone middle years or elementary classes. Teachers want to be able to create positive connections with their students where they can identify issues before they become big issues. And that's not possible in our classrooms right now.
Thanks.
Thank you. Jason?
Hi, Samantha. Thank you for taking our questions. When we talked to a couple of students here in Prince Albert, they were very worried about what the effect that potentially canceling extracurricular activities would have on things like student mental health, because for a lot of them, sports or arts or extracurricular, it's a way to maintain their mental health, which helps them get good grades. So, like, for you guys, what would your message be to students who are worried about these extracurricular events being canceled?
My message would be that we are concerned right along with you. We want to make sure that your needs are being met, that you are mentally well. We want to provide these amazing opportunities. That's why teachers volunteer their time or provide these voluntary services, because they know they know and they see the impact that they have on students' lives, as well as the learning that happens in classrooms. We talk about education being the greatest equalizer. Well, that can only happen if we have the right supports in schools to be able to ensure that all kids can thrive in their classrooms and get their needs met, whether, like I said, whether it is mental health counseling or whether it is additional time with their teacher, additional time getting support with reading, or whether it is those opportunities that occur outside of the classroom but within the school community. All of those help students be and have the best experience that they can within the education system. And so we want to ensure that those can continue, but we cannot continue filling the gaps any longer. We want to ensure that we have reasonable class sizes. And in PA, I know I've heard of classes over 40. And when asked about that, the Minister of Education said that a classroom of 40 might be okay if you had the right kids. When we're talking about kids, there's no right and wrong kids. There's your kids, there's my kids, and these kids come to our schools the best that they are. And we want to make them better, but we need support in doing that.
That's good for me. Thank you very much, Samantha.
Thanks, Jason. Stephen?
Hi, Samantha. Here in Southeast Saskatchewan, a lot of the there hasn't seemed to have been a lot of job action taken in Southeast Saskatchewan so far. Has there been any rhyme or reason, or what has been kind of the rhyme or reason for which areas have been selected for the rotating job action as opposed to this provincial-wide stuff that will be coming up next week?
Well, we have looked at short-term and long-term plans. Obviously, no job action would be the preferred choice in this entire process. But unfortunately, government has refused to come to the table to address the big issues that teachers and students see in their classrooms across the province. So there's definitely a longer term plan, not to say necessarily that the Southeast or other areas will be specifically impacted, but all of those decisions are looked at strategically and over a bigger picture.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, I just saw a question in the chat here as well. So do you think these messages are getting through to the province or falling on deaf ears? Well, first of all, with that, like I said, since the beginning of January through to now the end of February, over 2 months, we have seen almost 110,000 emails going to our elected officials. It is their job to represent the people of Saskatchewan. So that means that they are listening to parents, they are listening to teachers, they are listening to students. It isn't just about the people who have votes in this province. It is making sure that everyone in this province has their interests represented by those who are elected to do it. And right now they're not responding to the needs of our students. This has been an issue that teachers have brought forward over the last 7 years. It has really reached a breaking point where we cannot continue under our current course of action. We cannot see this government continue to underfund education. And we cannot see this government make empty promises that then they claw back after the fact. We need long-term commitments. And the Minister of Education has recognized these as issues and has talked about a renewed investment that could be coming through the budget here in March. And if they are truly committed to making those investments, we need to see them, as the president of SSBA has said, Jamie Smith-Windsor, she has said we need predictable and sustainable funding, not ups and downs, because students' needs don't just disappear. They need the supports year after year after year, and boards need that predictability so that they can hire staff. So it is unfortunate that they haven't responded to these issues sooner. It is unfortunate that it has gotten to this point, but it is their responsibility to represent the needs of all people here in Saskatchewan. And investing in our kids is the best investment that they can make. And they simply don't see it at this point. So they need to start listening, and I hope they do soon. And the second question that was there in regards to the action next weekend, there's a lot of sports playoffs about to happen. Are those going to be rescheduled or canceled? So for right now, what we are announcing with this 5-day countdown is 2 days of withdrawal of extracurricular services. So that is just on Tuesday, March 5th and Wednesday, March 6th. But extracurricular activities expand beyond athletics, although that's what comes front of mind to a lot of individuals here in Saskatchewan. It's not all of it, and there are many important extracurricular activities that teachers provide voluntarily, like drama productions, noon hour clubs, specifically more so in the elementary yearbook activities within schools, music festivals, school trips, as well as graduation planning. We do not want to have kids miss out on these opportunities, which is why we have given government additional time to, like I said, review their mandate and reconsider their position, provide their GTBC with the authority to negotiate on these priority items.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I'm just wondering, do you guys have a plan in place, or are you prepared to escalate the job action if the government continues to disregard the rotating strikes and pulling of extracurriculars?
Yeah, so we communicated that back in mid-February. So around February 15th or February 16th, we said that if the government wasn't going to take this process seriously, along with SSBA, and provide their bargaining team with a renewed mandate to address these issues, that sanctions would, and our actions would escalate. And we have definitely seen that this week. And that will continue. We need government to take this seriously. We feel the impacts of increasing class complexity. Our students feel the impacts of increasing class complexity. And government seems to be delaying for some reason, or feeling that they can ignore the issues that we have brought forward. But we need to see a resolution to this so that our students can be supported. And if they don't start taking this seriously, then our sanction action will continue and will escalate.
Thank you.
Thank you. So not seeing any other hands up. As I said, those extracurricular events, they cover a wide range of activities that students participate in within schools, art clubs, yearbook, music festivals, school trips. Like I said, graduation planning would be included within that, as well as athletics. And teachers don't want to have to be taking these actions, but government is giving us no other choice. We would love to be at the table negotiating, but they have never come to the table in good faith, ready to negotiate on those priority items that teachers continue to bring forward now over 3 contract negotiation agreements. We have no other options. We need assurances that the conditions in our classrooms are going to improve. We need assurances that students are going to have their needs met. Other provinces are doing similar or negotiating on similar articles. Other provincial agreements include these commitments within them. And our kids deserve that. Our kids deserve to know that regardless of where they live in Saskatchewan, that they are going to have timely access to the supports that they require to be successful in their pre-K to 12 education. It's what I want for my kids. It's what I want for your kids and all kids across Saskatchewan. It is the investment that we need to ensure we have a successful future in this province. So thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to hearing from the GTBC. I am hopeful that they will come back to the table with a renewed mandate and the authority to negotiate on these priority items so that our students can get the supports that they need. Thank you.